Well, I keep on rolling in this top five player series, don't I? I'm more than halfway there. Going to get through all 32 teams in the month of June. If you haven't seen the video for your team yet, check out the playlist in the description box down below. I'm doing the New England Patriots today. This is done in alphabetical order, so if you're a Falcons fan or a Ravens fan, a Bears fan, a Cowboys fan, a Broncos fan, whatever, I've already done those videos. If your team is alphabetically after the New England Patriots, like the Saints, the Jets, the Giants, and so on and so forth, I'm going to get to them. I'm going to get to everybody, I promise you. So let's talk about the New England Patriots today, an organization that dates back to its days in Boston as part of the old AFL. And this was a Patriots franchise that has had different runs of success over the years, no question about it, but was not always a marquee franchise like it is today in the National Football League, no question about it. In terms of great players in their history, this is the thing about the Patriots over the years. They've had some good players, but not necessarily a ton of great players. And even when you look at the Belichick Brady teams over the past decade plus, they've had a lot of good or really good players, but not necessarily a lot of great or true great or Hall of Fame type of players. So I actually had a little bit of trouble doing this list to find, like five guys that truly stood out above the rest. There were two that stood out above the rest, no question about it, but I had trouble compiling the top five for sure. Some of the honorable mentions for this list that didn't get on there: Nick Bonacani. A lot of people think about him more as a Miami Dolphin from his work on that no-name defense of the 70s under Don Shula. However, he was first a star player in the AFL for the Boston Patriots. I think about guys like Stanley Morgan and Ty Law and Adam Vinatieri and Drew Bledsoe. These are guys, some of whom you could probably make an argument belong on this list in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But I think I've done a good job of compiling a list of the five greatest New England Patriots of all time. So let me get started with this list, and you're welcome in the comments to let me know what you think of my list. Give me your own list of the five greatest New England Patriots of all time as well. Number five, the first great New England Patriot, as you will, who became known as Mr. Patriot, and that is, of course, Gino Cappelletti, who came to the organization in 1960 after some time in the military, after his college time in Minnesota, played some in the CFL. He came to the Boston Patriots for their inaugural season in the AFL in 1960, and to me, during their first decade, was really the Patriot of Patriots. He was a five-time Pro Bowler in his, or AFL All-Star, if you will, in his 11 seasons with the Patriots. He was the 1964 AFL Most Valuable Player. He ended up his career as the all-time leading scorer in Patriots history, and that was a mark that wasn't surpassed until Adam Vinatieri did it in 2005. So for 35 years, he held the organization's record for most points scored in a career. He was one of the better receivers in the AFL of his time and one of the better kickers of his time. When you package that all in, you'd look at one of the truly great AFL players of all time, and frankly, a shame that he doesn't get more consideration when it comes to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number four, Andre Tippett, the 41st overall selection out of Iowa in the 1982 NFL Draft. You have five-time Pro Bowler, a two-time first-team All-Pro, who finished his career with 100 sacks, had 3 seasons with more than 10 sacks, including 18.5 sacks in 1984, and then 16.5 sacks for that 1985 New England Patriots team that kind of made that miraculous wild card run to Super Bowl 20, including beating the Miami Dolphins and Dan Marino in Miami in the AFC Championship game. Andre Tippett was the best defensive player, for the New England Patriots for over a decade, and he finally got his spot, his place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And if he had played on some better teams and he had played for a more noteworthy organization, he probably would have made more Pro Bowls and more All-Pro appearances and been thought of higher in terms of his overall standing as a player. But definitely one of the great New England Patriots of all time. Number three, I will go with Richard Seymour, the 6th overall selection out of Georgia in the 2001 NFL Draft. Excuse me. Whereas everybody will always talk about Tom Brady and closely associate him at the hip with Bill Belichick, I think in a lot of ways Richard Seymour made the New England Patriots go, especially on the defensive end. He was, to me, the best player on those New England Patriots defenses under Bill Belichick that won 3 Super Bowls in his first 4 seasons in the league. He was one of the premier defensive ends of his time, a 5-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champion, 4-time conference champion, a member of the 2000s NFL All-Decade team. In my opinion, even though the statistics aren't the sexiest in terms of impact, in terms of meaning, in terms of overall skill and play, Richard Seymour was the best defensive player in the history of the New England Patriots organization and the most important defensive player in the history of the New England Patriots organization. You know, it was bringing in a guy like Richard Seymour that allowed Bill Belichick to do so many things on the defensive side of the ball in the early 2000s when the Patriots were reigning supreme and ruling the NFL. But then we get to number 2 and number 1, and these to me are clear cut. Clear cut number 2, clear cut number 1, not even open for debate and discussion. Number 2 is John Hannah, the 4th overall pick out of Alabama in the 1973 NFL Draft. He was, beyond question, the greatest interior lineman of his time. You could argue the greatest interior lineman of all time. He played 13 seasons at left guard for the New England Patriots. And think about it, he didn't sit there and use the modern pass blocking techniques. He used the old hook and fish techniques. One of the truly great pullers in NFL history, one of the truly great power run blockers in NFL history, also one of the great pass protectors in all of NFL history, and 9-time Pro Bowler, 7-time All-Pro, a member of both the 1970s and 1980s NFL All-Decade teams, something that just not a lot of players in NFL history have been able to do. A member of the NFL's 75th anniversary team. At one point in time, he was featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and they were talking about him at the time being the greatest offensive lineman in NFL history. He was voted 4 times by the NFL's Player Association as the Offensive Lineman of the Year. John Hannah, when people sit there and they do their all-time teams and they do their all-time offensive lines, if they know anything of anything when it comes to professional football, I guarantee you they are going to ink it in pen that John Hannah is the starting left guard on their offensive line, period. I think, again, the greatest left guard in the history of the National Football League, and comes in number 2 on this list. But number 1, you knew where I was going with this. The 199th overall selection out of Michigan in the 2000 NFL Draft, Tom Brady, one of the truly great draft steals in NFL history, and now one of the truly great quarterbacks in NFL history. I realize a lot of people like to hate on him. A lot of people don't like some of the things that he represents, and I understand that. But you cannot diminish to me his significance or his impact or his greatness. A lot of people will talk about him being a system quarterback. Well, maybe it's the system goes because of the quarterback. You know, there have been seasons where he's put up numbers comparable, if not better, to Peyton Manning with inferior talent around him compared to Peyton Manning. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. He's led his team to 5 Super Bowl appearances during his time as a starter. They've won 3 Super Bowl championships. He's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, a 2-time NFL Most Valuable Player. He's the Patriots' all-time franchise leader in passing yards and touchdowns and completion percentage. You name it, he's got it in terms of career records for the Patriots. A member of the NFL's 2000s All-Decade team. In his, I guess you would say his 12 seasons as a starter, if you take 2008 out of the equation, where that team, still under Matt Castle, went 11-5. In Tom Brady's 12 years as the primary starter of the New England Patriots from that 3rd game of 2001 until 2013, 12 full seasons pretty much, he has led the New England Patriots to 11 playoff appearances. And in those 11 playoff seasons, they have finished with the playoff record of 18-8 under him as a starter. Incredible stuff. A 3-time league leader in touchdown passes, a 2-time league leader in passing yards. You know, you're talking about Tom Brady, one of the quintessential winners, one of the quintessential clutch players in NFL history, and one of the quintessential great quarterbacks in NFL history, and to me, easily makes him the greatest New England Patriot of all time. Some older fans might sit there and say John Hannah was the best pure player in New England Patriots history, but unfortunately for John Hannah, he doesn't have the hardware and accomplishments to back him up that a Tom Brady does, and that's why Tom Brady is the greatest New England Patriot of all.